David Stark from WatcherPass.com, and today I'm going to talk about The Boy Behind the Door, which is a new horror thriller that releases on Shudder on July 29, 2021. I'm going to talk a little bit about the summary. I'm going to do 3 things I liked, 3 things I didn't like, and then talk a little bit about the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about the film, check out the review on WatcherPass.com. It's where I post my written reviews. They're much more vague. They are spoiler-free, or usually spoiler-free. And you can check it out there, or go watch the film and then come back and watch this. Or if you don't care about spoilers, let's go. So The Boy Behind the Door is a film that starts with these 2 kids. They're both in like little league softball uniforms. I think they're coming off of a game. Bobby and Kevin, and they get kidnapped. It's kind of a shock opening, which I really liked. You get this like high energy opening. I didn't like that the boys got kidnapped, but you had this high energy opening where the boys get kidnapped, thrown in a trunk. And then one of the kids, Bobby, wakes up in the trunk of the car, and he's not really sure what's going on. It's dark, it's late. He kind of jimmies his way out and then starts kind of exploring the situation. He doesn't know where he is. He has no idea, how far he's gone, how long he's been out. All he knows is there's this creepy house and his friend Kevin isn't with him. So he starts exploring the house and trying to, figure out what to do, help Kevin. You can hear some muffled, yells through the, various air ducts and things like that. But the house is also occupied by the kidnapper. And so a lot of the film is kind of a cat and mouse game with Bobby trying to, get more information, get some more tools, figure out what's going on, and evade the kidnappers. And it's a really, really well done film. So let me go into the 3 things I liked about it. The first is the setting. The setting of this film is really, it's kind of perfect. You're in this old abandoned house. It's very dark, and there's creaks, but you also can hear things throughout. It's your kind of typical horror movie house, but it's such a well thought out setting because there's not much around it. It's kind of up on a hill, and nothing is working. So Bobby is kind of at a disadvantage. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know how to get out, but he also doesn't want to leave Kevin. And so this leads to a lot of very tense scenes where Bobby and the kidnapper are trying to, the kidnapper's trying to find him. Bobby's trying to hide. They exchange blows and things like that. It's a really good horror setup. The second thing I love is the cast. It's a small film. There's not a lot of members, but you've got some really, really good performances. And I especially like the performances of the kids, who Bobby's Lonnie Chavis and Kevin is Ezra Dewey. Kids in horror movies, they can be hit or miss, right? Sometimes the kids they don't add much, or they're not as seasoned of actors, and so their delivery feels, it kind of breaks the suspension of disbelief. But in this movie, I think both kids did a really good job. They both, had good panic. They had, they got hurt and they showed their pain, and they also were good at expressing their fear when they had it. And then also the cast stars a few other people, most notably one of the kidnappers, Kristin Bauer van Straten, who plays this fantastic but horrible, lady who is kind of one of the head kidnappers. It seems like she kind of runs this ring, and so she is ruthless and tries to get Bobby and then eventually kill Bobby. And so the cast itself was just a very well, put together cast. It really helped this film rise, really let you kind of get into the characters and just suspend your disbelief. The second thing or the third thing I love is the simplicity of this film. And that is not a knock at all. Like, the film knows what it does well, and it does it very well. It doesn't try to do too much. So it has this great setting. It has this good cast of characters. It has this slow buildup. The story doesn't have too many twists, although there are a few twists. It doesn't try to do too much. It doesn't try to explain too much. It just lets you kind of live in the moment, get behind Bobby's eyes and figure out what to do, how to save his friend, and also how to survive this night and how to get help. And so the story, what I really liked, and sometimes this might be a knock, so it's a mixed bag, but I really like that they didn't try to get into too many of the specifics of the kidnappers. They were there. They were bad. Presumably they wanted to, I think, sell these kids into human trafficking, but they didn't go into like motivations. They didn't go into like, the network or anything like that. They just kind of kept it untold, and that made it so that nothing felt weird. Like, they didn't try to go into some sort of diatribe about how they're justified in doing this or anything like that. They were bad. The kids were good. House was scary, and just go. The fourth thing, this is the fourth thing I really liked, is there was a twist partway through the film. Bobby's hiding in this room, and it's a Shining type moment where the kidnapper uses an axe to break down part of the door, breaks open a little window, and looks through. And lo and behold, you have Kristin Bauer Van Straten, who you wouldn't normally expect to be a kidnapper. She's this, made up lady. I mean, she has a sinister look, but it's a female doing human trafficking, and you wouldn't normally expect that, especially in a horror movie. So I liked that twist because it was kind of like an aha moment. And then she became, essentially the most ruthless of these kidnappers. There's one more that's introduced earlier. He, is similarly bad, but he seems to be a little more sympathetic. I mean, I think he's still bad, but he was trying to, bring Bobby back unharmed, or at least stop him unharmed, probably so he could sell him. But Kristin Bauer Von Straten's character is just evil. I mean, I think she eventually wants to sell him, but at some point she says, this is not worth it, and she tries to kill him. So her introduction and the twist when she looks through and you see it's a lady, like an older lady, was a good touch. And then she uses that later when the cops come. She tries to kind of pretend like she's more meek and feeble to lure the cop in and throw him off. Things I didn't like, there really isn't that much. This film is just a very good, well put together film. It doesn't try to do too much. I guess maybe the simplicity could be a knock, because the film is fairly linear. There's a twist, but it's kind of Bobby goes into the house, finds Kevin, tries to figure out how to get him out. They get out, and then they try to escape, and stuff happens. But I think that's also one of the things this film does well. But I have to come up with something, so that was the first thing that came up. The only other thing I could really think about is there's a scene partway through where a cop comes and tries to, he's answering some sort of distress call, and they're kind of canvassing the neighborhood, and he comes in and just he gets killed pretty easily. Like I would assume a cop, if he comes into a dark room, he might have a flashlight and be more cautious, and he gets dispatched pretty easily. But that's fine. I mean, it kind of establishes the Kristin Bauer Von Straten's character as this ruthless person, and how she uses her feminine, her female demeanor to throw him off guard. That's really the only things I can think of. I mean, this is just a really well put together film. So let's get into the ending. As you would imagine, more spoilers. So if you don't want to know exactly what happens at the end, stop watching. But here we go. The ending was pretty standard for a kidnapping genre film. But as I said, this film does everything really well, and the ending itself was also very well done. So you've got the boys. Eventually, Bobby is able to handcuff the kidnapper, and essentially, but he gets shot in the process. But Ezra is also able to escape. I don't remember exactly how he escapes, but they both eventually end up outside of the house. And there's this really great scene where Ezra's he has like a choke collar, like a shock collar that shocks if he tries to leave the house. And he's just inching forward, shock after shock, trying to get to something that can then cut off the shock collar. So that contributed to the overall performance. I mean, both of these boys did a really good job when they were, scared and trying to escape, and worried about what they were, worried for their lives. And it's funny also because Lonnie Chavis, he was also in The Waterman, which released earlier this year. And I think in this movie, he was younger, or maybe he was the same age, but both of those take place there. I think they were both filmed 2 or 3 years ago. So I interviewed Lonnie for The Waterman, and he's a very different looking kid. Like he is definitely growing. And so seeing him in this, recent release movie where he looks like he's 3 or 4 years younger than when I talked to him was really funny. But he was a great interview. He seems like a well put together, he has a good head on his shoulder. He was really, a pleasure to talk to, and he does a really great job in this film. So I think, he has a big career ahead of him. Anyways, that aside, so they escaped and they find the cop car. The cop who originally answered the distress call and was killed by the kidnapper, his car is still there. So they radio in for help. And while they're doing this, as you would expect, the kidnapper comes and she, peers in the window and tries to break the car door, the car window open, and she can't because it's bulletproof. So the kids they think they're fine, but she goes back, gets the keys from the dead cop, comes back, opens the door. They struggle some more. They eventually struggle and get into the woods, where they end up kind of in the secluded wood area. But before they did that, they were able to radio for help. They didn't necessarily say, they just said, we don't know where we are. We're on a hill. There's oil rigs. It's a house. but they were able to radio in for help. So they run to the woods. They try to escape. Eventually, she tracks them down and is about to kill them. She takes a swing at Bobby, and Bobby dodges, and the axe gets wedged in this trunk that was behind them. So she's pulling, and she breaks the handle, so it's kind of a sharp stake. And she's about to stab Bobby, and then boom, 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 boom. There's a gunshot, and she falls over. The cops arrive. They were quick enough. They arrived, and they stopped this. The boys are then given medical care, and the film is kind of over. So, like I said, it's kind of your standard kidnapping genre film. I guess maybe in some, the boys would, they would see another kidnapper, or they would be taken away, and they would, the person would reveal themselves as a kidnapper and take them off. But in this one, the boys the film just ends. It pans out from the house. You see the oil rigs. You see how isolated it is. And it's just a really, really solid film. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't think it did anything really poorly. It kind of did everything right, and knew exactly what it wanted to do. And so that's, this is just a good film that you can watch. If you're a genre fan, it's a good film to kind of sit down on a movie night and just enjoy. It's not too violent. It's not too, gratuitous in any way. It's just a good standard kind of horror kidnapping thriller. So that's The Boy Behind the Door. It's releasing on Shudder on July 29th, 2021. So you can check it out then. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.